We did see, I guess, the banks a bit of a weight on the market and ignoring the stimulus moves we've seen in China. So a pretty flat day all round.
Nigel, I think the first thing is that it's the first week of the quarter, and where has everyone gone? We've seen Monday-type volumes every single day this week, and today was absolutely no exception. It was dead on the market, very light volumes going through. We did see the banks dragging down the market a touch, although the defensive areas like the staples and the telecom sectors really led the gains today. And another area we were watching was iron ore. We saw prices down by 2% overnight, so Fortescue down by 1.3%. You're absolutely right, Nigel. There was lots to absorb around the region. One was the mini stimulus that we saw announced out of China yesterday. We heard that there would be more spending in terms of railways, which would be financed by $26.2 billion worth of bonds. We also heard that there would be more housing for low-income households, as well as some tax relief for struggling businesses over in China. And I guess the high point of the session really did come when we saw some numbers out of China. We saw the non-manufacturing PMI numbers coming in at 50.5, and that was at midday. You can see that was responsible for the run-up to the highs of the session today. Here domestically, we also saw some numbers. Retail sales numbers came out at 11:30 a.m. They were slightly weaker than expected, coming in at 0.2% for February. And we also saw the trade numbers, $1.2 billion. So that means that we've seen that trade surplus above $1 billion now for 2 consecutive months, and we've seen a surplus for 3 consecutive months, and that has positive implications for Australian GDP. So lots of data to absorb, lots of news to absorb, but unfortunately that didn't translate to volumes on the market.
This news that he's stepping down was a bit of a shock to many people, as it wasn't widely predicted that he would do this. How has NAB's share price reacted to this news? It seems to have been a non-event, really.
NAB's share price just really shrugged off the news, only down by 0.5%. So the fact that we are seeing a smooth succession plan in place, I think, really did comfort the market. It was a surprise in terms of timing. I think it was expected that Cameron Klein would stay until we saw the chairman of NAB, Michael Chaney, stepping down later on this year. So the timing was a bit of a surprise, but the fact that the succession plan is in place, we're going to see Andrew Thornton, who's the head of Bank of New Zealand at the moment, taking over the reins after being the CEO of Bank of New Zealand since 2008, I think is a good move. We have seen Cameron Klein at the head of NAB now since the 1st of January 2009, and of course there's been quite a turbulent period throughout the global financial crisis, the problems in terms of the UK, but the press conference today just confirming that there will be no change in strategy, that NAB's going to continue to focus in on its New Zealand as well as Australian operations and just try and deal with the issues that it has in the UK. So not a huge event in terms of share price action, and the share's down by 0.5%.
I saw a shoot up this morning, Cassini up about 400% at one point on some news around purchasing an asset from BHP Billiton.
I think the Stock of the Day award has to go to Cassini. The stock was up 478% at one stage during the day and settled to close up by 367% in one session. Now, this is a stock that yesterday had a market capitalisation of just $2.5 million. It's managed to do a deal with an absolute mammoth in the marketplace, BHP Billiton. It will be looking at its nickel assets, the West Musgrave assets, which is on the border of the Northern Territory and South Australia, and is near some of the other assets that Cassini has. Now, if we have a look at the payment for these assets, $250,000 cash, a 2% smelter royalty, and then $10 million once production starts. Now, this asset, the West Musgrave asset, is thought to contain about 1.5 million tonnes of nickel. So really good news there. The other piece of news to come through from this company is that Dr. John Honske will be joining the board, and this is quite significant, because if we have a look at this West Musgrave asset, one of the most attractive areas is Nebo Babel, which was actually discovered by Western Metals Corp, WMC, back in 2000. Of course, WMC was taken over by BHP Billiton in 2005, and Dr. John was previously at WMC and then at BHP Billiton, so the fact that he's got experience with this particular asset, also a big plus there. So Cassini shares up by a massive 367% today.